Welcome back. You're watching another episode of Weird Music History. Today, we're talking about one of, if not the greatest, rap group of all time. These guys have been around, and there's so many of them. Believe that the family tree runs deep. We're talking about none other than the Wu-Tang Clan. Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to f with. That's what we're talking about. Now, Wu-Tang Clan holds a special spot in the rap community. I'm talking about, dude, you can see this logo just about any and everywhere. Even though they're from originally upstate Staten Island stuff, you can find their stuff everywhere. I literally have a coworker that has a Wu-Tang Clan symbol in a fat print on his back windshields. I see it every day, and it's kind of crazy. They're gonna when they say Wu-Tang forever, they meant it. Now, today on Weird Music History, we're going to talk about the members and some interesting facts about each one of them that was a part of the group, and just some general knowledge and fun facts about Wu-Tang Clan. Let's hop into it. Now, you can't talk about Wu-Tang Clan without first mentioning the mastermind behind it all. Talking about none other than the RZA, the master of the drunken beat. He had a bunch of friends and a bunch of people and wanted to do nothing but this rap shit and made it happen. No matter what it was gonna take, he made it happen. And so Wu-Tang Clan assembled in late of 1992 with RZA as a de facto and the group's producer. RZA, an old dirty bastard, adopted the name for the group, the film Shaolin and the Wu-Tang. He's also a student of Quentin Tarantino. He also produces and directs films, and I think that whole relationship started out with Tarantino basically bringing him on to do the soundtrack for Kill Bill. And so while RZA was there and a part of that project, he just soaked in as much information as he could about acting, directing, film score, just everything to do with that industry as well. And he ended up later on making his own films, and I think he actually even just released a new film. I can't remember the name of it, but we'll put it up. You'll see it. Now, I heard a story about RZA and how it started, and that basically he was supposed to go drive somewhere, make a deal, and he had some money in his pocket. And they were gonna get some shit, bring it back, flip it, and then make some more money off, right? That's how it works. Well, he ended up taking that trip and then deciding that's not what he wanted to do. Came back with the money that he still had and ended up just straight up throwing it into the music and starting to develop what we now know is the Wu-Tang Clan. Crazy. That movie that he also just directed that just came out is also called One Spoon of Chocolate. So I advise you to go see it, because anything he's doing right now is actually really great. He's working with some great actors too. But yeah, that's the RZA. The RZA is the mold, the glue behind that formed this this group that is going to last Wu-Tang forever. All right, let's get into we talked about the RZA. Now let's get into the GZA. GZA, aka the genius and the spiritual head. He was the first one of the group to have a deal pre-Wu-Tang. And he already had a deal going on and learned some parts of the industry and how that works. And then, fun fact, he also started a program for science through hip-hop for high schoolers, which is one of the best ways to learn and help things stick in your head is by rhyming and having rhymes. Think about nursery rhymes. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, rhyme schemes, and that helps develop and teach people how to learn. So he had the bright idea to take the things that he loves the most, science and music and rap, and mold them together to help the younger generation.
Wu-Tang is for the children.
Become more successful. Now, let's talk about some of his music. His second studio album, Liquid Swords, is considered one of the best lyrical albums ever. I actually was just spent the last month scouring everywhere to try and see if I could get a copy of it. No one had any, but the album is crazy. I've gone back and listened to all these albums, just the absolute peak epitome of lyrical destruction and forces to be reckoned with, dude. They are so. It's you listen to a song and you get done and you're like, okay, I need to get my pen and pad out and start packing some shit in again, because they were blowing it out of the water, and that was at a time before, Jay-Z and Kendrick and Cole and all these guys, dude, they were absolutely killing it. Oh, Shaolin, the fucking Liquid Swords. So Liquid Swords also includes all of the Wu-Tang members. It's a solo album with all the Wu-Tang on it, so it's technically a Wu-Tang album. It's so good, too. I advise you to go check it out. Liquid Swords, dude. About to GZA. Genius. All right. Moving on. We're going to talk about Method Man. Now, I'm sure you have seen Method Man, even if you aren't familiar with Wu-Tang Clan or the history or his role in hip-hop, because he is also an actor who has been in over 150 film and TV series. 150. And that's still going. Acting is actually, he talks about it and he tells a story that acting is actually the reason that he quit smoking weed, too. Apparently, he was on set. There was a lady, I don't know if she was maybe she was one of the producers for the film that he was on, but he talks about how in the morning they'd get up, they come in, they'd be all fresh and be in it as far as acting, and then they would go to lunch, and they'd go eat, and they'd go take their smoke break, and then they come back, and she was telling him that it's like that they weren't as good after lunch, is what she said. And so he basically caught on and was like, made sense. Like, oh, they get back from lunch, they're all hazed, chilled out. And so they're not on point and locked in as far as the character they need to be. Yeah, Method Man is not only dedicated to the rap and hip-hop community, but also just as dedicated to the film industry as well. So that's so sick. And I like anything that he's in, I'm watching. Now, Method Man's name originates from the 1979 Shaw Brothers kung fu flick of the name, aka the Fearless Young Boxer. According to the Wu-Tang Manual, RZA gave him this name because meth My notes say it says because he liked to smoke angel dust, which goes along with the slang, which goes by the slang method. That's from iHeartMedia. So I don't want to say because I was like, hold on, maybe that's not right, but our iHeartMedia posted it. That's pretty funny. He's also a Grammy Award winner for the song I'll Be There For You, You're All I Need with Mary J. Blige. That's pretty cool. Method's also a big comic book fan, and even having the nickname Johnny Blaze, which if you're a comic nerd, you know Johnny Blaze is also the Ghost Rider. And he even wrote for some Ghost Rider stories in 2016. That's super sick. That's fire. Anyone who's down with the comics is cool with me. I love comics as well, so I thought that was a crazy, dope, and interesting fact. Now, let's keep this train rolling. We've talked about the RZA. We've talked about the GZA. We talked about the method and the man, and now we're gonna talk about the Old Dirty Bastard. Yes, the man, the myth, the legend of the Old Dirty Bastard is insane. We could do a whole video on Old Dirty Bastard itself, but seeing as how this is, we want to do the Wu-Tang Clan. We want to do the whole family, and so Old Dirty Bastard was one of the first members to be attached with Wu-Tang and RZA. He was spontaneous and funny and hilarious from what everyone says, and he was just hell on wheels. He did what he wanted and thought was sick. So here's some fun facts about Old Dirty Bastard. Did you know that he once showed up to a Wu-Tang show and performed while he was on the run, dodging the big house, and ended up still showing up to a show and did all of his parts for a show. That's dedication to the craft right there. Now, there's also a crazy story about Old Dirty Bastard where he talks about apparently they were all at their local record store, the one they would go to where they would freestyle and, you know, spit their bars and make their name known. And one time they were all there, and apparently Old Dirty Bastard was rapping, and everybody was kind of doing their own thing and not really paying attention to what was going on and what he was saying. So in turn, he ended up firing his gun off, pointing his gun in the air and firing it off while everyone finally started to pay attention. He said, fuck it. And he walked out of the store and left, which is crazy. He didn't even bother to rap for him anymore. He just got the attention and then dipped. I think is absolutely hilarious. He's also famously known for a quote,
Wu-Tang is for the children,
from a Grammy Awards, where he basically interrupted Diddy and infamously decided to say, Wu-Tang is for the children.
Wu-Tang is for the children.
It's fucking hilarious. The dude was unpredictable in many senses, like the Joker, just like wild and did what he wanted, and you never knew what he was gonna do next. Well, there's also a super funny story about him and Mariah Carey. And Mariah Carey was apparently a big Wu-Tang and ODB fan, and she loved them. What's considered the first major record to blend R&B and hip-hop together is for the Fantasy remix with ODB. But apparently the whole thing was a disaster. So the story goes is that I want to say I heard an engineer talking about how the whole story about how the record was recorded. Apparently, they asked him. She wanted to have him on this record. He said, "Okay, send over a quote for how much it would be," which was a good number. And so they sent it to him and said, "No problem." So he comes to the studio. Apparently, it was so fucked up that he'd go in, he'd record one line, and then he'd fall asleep, knock out, then he'd wake up, he'd say, "Run it back," he'd hear it again, and that continued, him doing a line at a time, then falling asleep for a whole night session. And then after, so they had he in the song he mentions a city, and then the record company called him back and said, "Okay, we love the verse that you did, but we also want you to add more cities. That way, when we do it, we can play it in the city, not just one city, but for all cities, right?" So he ended up telling him, "Okay, well, do that. I'm gonna need another check." So they sent him the same amount again, and he ends up coming in, doing it, end up taking forever again. But ultimately they finally get the record done, and it's a classic record that everyone knows and loves. The story doesn't end there. So now we get to the video shoot. A story that was told by the stylist basically says that he showed up on set and he's, all fucked up, and tells the stylist tries to see, fit him, see what they can wear for the video, and he ends up telling him, "Nah, fuck that. I don't need nothing. I'm just gonna wear my Timbs and no shirt. We'll be good." So he said, "Okay, whatever." And time goes by, he ends up falling asleep, whatever, and then gets out of his haze. They're about to shoot the video, and he's like, "Where's my fucking wardrobe? Where are all the clothes? I need a fit." And so they ended up, I think, either going to a mall or sending somebody to a mall to go get him the fit that he wears in the video. And it was, they just said it was impossible. Not impossible, but they said it was a really rough time working with him to get him to actually do stuff. That I'm not sure if he really wanted to do it, but he was a nut. But a legend. I don't think you could have Wu-Tang without the Old Dirty Bastard. You know what I mean? All right. So moving on. First, we're going to talk about Ghostface Killah. They made a show about the Wu-Tang Clan. It's on Hulu, and I actually liked it. I thought it was great. I watched most of it. I don't know if I got to finish the very last season, but it was good nonetheless. The actors they brought on to play him did a fucking fantastic job. They show all this, cool old school recording gear that they were, using. And I really liked the show. Ghostface Killah, on the other hand, says he doesn't fuck with the show and claims that he never got to speak to writers or directors or anything about, his character or even meet the guy who's supposedly playing him, and was just left out of the equation as far as the show was concerned, which I thought is kind of a shame. You'd think that a show about these guys, and you need people to play him, you'd think that you would want those people to reach out to play him. But I've also heard that when it comes to projects about the Wu-Tang brand, they really leave it up to RZA, and that's like Wu-Tang is his, is the brand. It's of course got all of them, but that's his baby. So I think a lot of that stuff, especially when they started doing their own solo stuff, that sometimes they just get left out of projects where they don't think it's necessary for them, I guess. But anyways, in the early days of Wu-Tang, he was wearing a mask. He wore a full mask, and some people say that it was because he was wanted or in legal trouble, but he claims that it was also just to help the lore and the mystery of the Wu-Tang brand. He's also considered to have one of the craziest jewelry pieces, named the Eagle bracelet. It's huge, dude. Go check it out. And inspired many other artists like ICP, Action Bronson, his son Cole Griselda, Schoolboy Q, to name some more. I mean, they all have inspired a whole generation of groups, which we're going to talk a little bit more about. But yeah, that was the Ghostface Killer. My favorite part is that he wore that mask at the very beginning of it. He eventually stopped, but I feel like he should have kept doing it. Or maybe he had done some, I don't know. Anyways, we can talk about Master Killer now. He was the 9th and the last member to join the Wu-Tang Clan. He's also apparently related to Marvin Gaye, which is kind of sick. He's also an avid chess player. Master Killer is an avid chess player and talks about whooping RZA's ass all the time, who is also an avid chess player. He also, like Meth, is a comic book collector, and claims that he even has the first Black Panther 1 and 2, which I thought was pretty sick and right on par. That was the Killers, the Ghostface and the Master, the Killers, dude. Let's talk about Raekwon. Very much known for his solo project as well. An album to go down in history. We're, of course, talking about the Cuban Links album, which was apparently released on a purple cassette tape and now is a collector's item. Raekwon is also known as the chef. He be cooking up. Cream was also inspired by Raekwon's cousin, and Tom and Jerry, if you can believe that. Tom and Jerry, yes, like Tom and Jerry, the cat and the mouse. Stating that his cousin would come over to Staten Island to sell crack and kept saying he got to get this cream. He saw an episode of Tom and Jerry where the two were making sandwiches and they were putting too much mayo on the sandwiches, which ended up making the mayo look like cream. And it was his way of saying he was getting his spread on. Did you know that Wu-Tang Clan and Tom and Jerry had a connection? You probably didn't, but that's fucking interesting nonetheless. Okay. Oh, we would never see an OBCL Part 2 if it wasn't for Busta Rhymes. Apparently, he had encouraged Raekwon to do it while they were working on his album, Big Bang Theory. So shout out to Busta, and I'd like to do an episode on Busta Rhymes. See, their reach spreads far and wide, dude. All right, let's talk about the U-God. Name comes from the 5% Nation and stands for Universal God Allah, believing that the black man is God. Hey, if you're gonna name yourself, go for the biggest. Apparently, he was the beatboxer for Inspector Deck, and he was homies with Method Man before joining the Wu. These guys probably went to like school together and whatnot. He also has a limited representation on the debut album with only a few verses because he was serving time in prison in 1992. He also tells this crazy story later on in his life about how his son got caught in crossfire and was shot and killed and died on the died on the operating table twice. That is fucking crazy. Let's talk about Inspector Deck. Characterized as the calm and collect Wu-Tang member, balancing out some of the other members like ODB and Method Man, who were on 10. He was the more fucking, chilled out, calm, collect, everything cordial type dude, man. Did you know that Inspector Deck was originally on Tupac's Got My Mind Made Up, but the verse ended up being cut? That's crazy. I wonder if he still gets royalties even though it was cut. I guess maybe not if it's not the version that they kept. But that's crazy. It's still crazy to say that you had a song with Tupac, regardless of whether it got cut or whatever. You still were in making music with considerably one of the greatest rappers ever. Which these guys are also some of the greatest rappers ever. I mean, they hold their own for sure. Like I said, Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to fuck with. Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to fuck with. All right. Inspector Deck definitely doesn't get the recognition he deserves. And most people watching the American Saga feel like it kind of makes you feel bad for him. He deserves it as much love as any of the members, but probably is the most underrated, I would say. And shout out to Inspector Deck, man. Also, crazy lyricist, man. All of these guys are just like, when I say the tip-top epitome of rapping and being a lyricist, man, this was it. I advise you guys to go back and listen to these albums because they really opened my head up, because I was like, yo, what the I've heard most of the big hits and whatnot, and then I did the deep dive and I was like, holy shit, they were going crazy. Like, they were snapping. It's actually really incredible. So last but not least, we're gonna talk about the Capadonna. Capadonna mentored U-God and also influenced Method Man to start rapping. Crazy. Cap is the guy that got Meth to start rapping. Cap is considered the coolest grandpa in rap history, fathering 8 kids, including triplets. That's fucking bananas. And he's the coolest grandpa in rap, which shows you how long these guys have been around. They're grandparents. You feel me? It was wild. He was considered a local hood legend long before the Wu-Tang Clan began, and only added to the infancy once joining. Infamously. All right. Anyways. Oh. Capadonna apparently it stands for consider all poor people acceptable, don't oppress nor neglect anyone. That's what Capadonna stands for. Well, one more time, just in case you missed it. Consider all poor people acceptable, don't oppress nor neglect anyone. Hell yeah. All right, Cap talks about how Jamaican gangsters had an influence on him as a whole. He was also known in the local rap scene for rapping along with bongos. Apparently he would, in the local scene, he would rap and play bongos at the same time, which that's fucking sick. All right, we're going to just talk about some general facts about Wu-Tang as a whole. Wu-Tang, between 2007 and 2013, a secret album titled Once Upon a Time in Shaolin. RZA created the album feeling the internet had cheapened the music and hoped to return music back to valuable art. Shout out to RZA. Man knows what the fuck he's doing. Now, which I agree, and it paid off because listen to this. The album was stored in a secure vault in Casablanca, Morocco, and was sold to a winning bidder who was Martin Shkreli, the CEO of Turing Pharmaceuticals. Holy shit. For $2 million with a purchaser stipulation that it could not be commercially exploited until 2103. What the that's insane. Also, again, the mastermind behind this man and his brand, RZA, is like literally took an album and decided this, putting this on the internet and people buying it for $1. Like, I want to make art, and he damn sure did it. Sold for $2 million to a pharmaceutical CEO. What the and they can't, and nobody, maybe, I don't know if he can listen to it, but nobody else will be able to hear this album until 2103. What the are we talking about? That's like, in a good way. That's incredible. And we really should, as musicians, hold our art as close as RZA does to his, because I mean that is truly what, you know, he made his art, literally. Now, more interesting facts about Wu-Tang in general. The FBI has released documents claiming that they were a criminal organization. So not only were they rappers and whatnot, but apparently they were making hella extra money on the side, flipping, selling, and doing what they needed to do. Now, nowadays, they probably would have got up with like a Rico or some shit, but they were at a good point in hip hop where I guess, I don't know, Ricos weren't a thing. One time, Wu-Tang Clan did a tour with Rage Against the Machine. How fucking epic would that have been, dude? A Rage Against the Machine Wu-Tang tour? What the Apparently I saw in a video that I think it was the singer of Rage Against the Machine. Rise Against, what the Rage Against the Machine was talking about how much they love Wu-Tang and they were so happy to have them on the tour, but also that like the way they toured and the way Wu-Tang toured was a complete like different ball game. Apparently those guys in Wu-Tang had a rough time touring with them. There was also a video of Method Man. I don't know if you guys ever seen him. He got like socked in the head. Somebody threw some shit on stage. I don't think that was that tour. I think maybe they were like also like opening or touring with ICP or some shit. I don't know. But that sounds like a fucking grand good old times. Did you know Wu-Tang also had a video game? They had a video game to come out on the PlayStation 1, and it also came with a Wu-Tang Clan shaped controller. It kind of looks like, you know, like a 64, like a GameCube type controller, but it was in the shape of the Wu-Tang symbol. Next is also, we're just going to talk about the Wu-Tang Clan affiliates. They also had Papa Wu, which was RZA's older cousin, and he's also featured on talking over some of the albums. Of course, you guys know Redman. Red and Meth were like that in movies and did tours and songs together. Shout out to LA to Darkman. Mathematics, which was a producer, DJ, and Saheem, Ghostface Killer's cousin. Now, like I said, their inspiration and influence just spread so far. I mean, they've felt influence people, you know, like ASAP Mob, I'm sure Flatbush and Action Bronson. They really have developed themselves as one of, like I said, one of, if not the greatest rap and hip hop groups to ever walk the face of the earth. You guys should also check out some of the books that they've done. Here's biographies. There's also The Power of Wu by RZA, and there's also a Wu-Tang manual that you can get. You should also see the Wu-Tang family tree. I mean, the rabbit hole runs deep, and Wu-Tang Clan was one of, like, Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to with. Wu-Tang Clan, they are not nothing to with, for real. And just as much information as you get, all this, it all revolves and circulates around the music. And if you're a musician like I am and are just obsessed with knowledge about music, make sure you follow the channel. This is Weird Music History. Like, share, subscribe. It really helps out. And I hope you've enjoyed the episode. And shout out to all the musicians and everyone that's inspired. Shout out to the Wu-Tang Clan and everybody who they've inspired.
Wu-Tang is for the children.
Thank you guys so much. Again, it's Weird Music History. And Wu-Tang's for the children.
Wu-Tang is for the children.
Don't